What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and this is rFactor 2, where today we're going to be driving some Corvettes. Oh my goodness, the comment section for this video is ripe to be absolutely astonishing. I can see it now. We're going to almost certainly have the rFactor 2 versus a settled course of debate, and then the Corvette versus Europe versus the GTR debate that always inevitably happens whenever you mention the word Corvette on YouTube. Yay! Yeah! So much fun. With the intro out of the way, may I request a moment of silence as we prepare to engage in ritualistic sacrifice to appease the sim racing gods. Let us commence. Can I get a hallelujah? Anyways, rFactor 2 now features 4 Corvette C6 street cars available free to all owners of rFactor 2, as was the case with the previously released Honda NSX. This is an rFactor 1 mod brought forward and upgraded into rFactor 2 standards, and, well, as was the case with the NSX, it's pretty much fantastic. We're going to be driving the Grand Sport and Z06 here at Putnam Park, which is a great combination in my opinion. These Corvettes really do feel at home on this track, so I'd highly recommend that you check them out here. There are 4 Corvettes available though. We're only going to be taking a look at 2 of them, so 2 of them are going to have to sit aside. But, going through the product lineup, there's the base coupe model, which we're not going to be driving here in this video because, well, it's the base model, and, well, it drives like it was tuned to appease a man of a certain age looking to have a woman of 30 years fewer than that certain age sit in the passenger seat. So, yeah, it's the softest of the bunch. It quite clearly is tuned for street usage, and street usage primarily. Very little track intention with that car, in my opinion. The gear ratios are all kind of screwy for circuit usage. They're too widely spaced apart, and not really a huge fan of that car. Definitely not the best of the package, in my opinion. Then the Grand Sport, which is what we're driving right now, which is sort of the in-between of the base model and the Z06. Yeah, it has a wider bodywork, wider tires to it. Different suspension tuning, I do believe. Larger brakes off the Z06. It's not a Z06, but it's in between that and the base model. And of course the Z06, which we'll also be driving a little bit later on in the video, which is probably my personal favorite of the bunch. Probably my personal favorite Corvette since the 60s. Not that I own one, of course. One day. Anyways, that is the track Corvette, you could say. And I accidentally clipped the grass, and I had one hand on the wheel. That was pretty lucky right there. But that's the track version of the Corvette. More power, more torque, stiffer suspension. Really developed for track usage first and foremost. Sort of the inverse of the regular coupe, I guess you could say. And there is also the ZR1, which we're not going to be driving in this video because, well, it's the ZR1, which means that if I drive it anywhere else besides the Nürburgring, I'm going to have people saying, why you no drive ZR1 on Nürburgring? Which, yeah, I've been doing that a lot since this package released. I don't even know how many laps I've done around the Nürburgring with the ZR1, but I'll just say it's a lot. Very enjoyable, I have to say. That said, I do prefer either the Grand Sport or the Z06, and it's a tough decision, it really is, because they have their individual strengths and their weaknesses, which is kind of why I want to showcase 2 cars in this video. I know a lot of people watching this are more familiar with games like Gran Turismo or Forza, where, you know, let's be honest, they're not as realistic as a PC racing sim, and you know, I'm not being elitist or anything like that. I have no problems with those games, but you know, they are trying to, you know, have 200 to 800 cars well simulated with reasonable levels of accuracy. They're not going to be perfect. It's literally impossible for them to do that many cars and have them all to the same level of polish. It's the reason why, you know, you've seen time and time again, some cars within games like Gran Turismo and Forza are superb. You know, they're definitely ahead of the pack, whereas at times you've also seen a lot of cars that are substandard. Or should I say, just standard in general, not premium. Hey-o! Shots fired! But you know, for example, Gran Turismo forever has had thousands of the same car. It's kind of Gran Turismo itself. It wouldn't be Gran Turismo without 18,000 different Nissan Skylines. It just wouldn't be right. It'd be sacrilegious. You know, it just would make no sense. But what is the actual difference in actual gameplay? You know, what is the actual difference between a R34 GTR V-Spec and an R34 GTR V-Spec 2? Now, you can give me a list of all the things that went into making the V-Spec 2 and all the differences between the cars, but is that simulated within Gran Turismo? And honestly, having played those games, having enjoyed those games a lot for what they are, no, the V-Spec 2 is like 1/10 of a second faster per lap. You would never even notice it if you weren't actually, you know, going head to head, back to back. You know, I know some of you Forza guys out there are probably like, he's picking on Gran Turismo, Forza's superior. No, it's the same case. Not to mention, in those games, why would I choose a Grand Sport Corvette? What would be the purpose? There usually isn't one, unless it's an event that, you know, specifically requires a Grand Sport or a car that's not tuned at all. You know, there's no reason. You know, if you want to go faster, you take the base model, you throw some upgrades at it. If you want to go even faster still out of the box, get a Z06. Want to go even faster than faster? Get a ZR1. You know, and you don't really get to see a car like this shine because, well, it is basically lost in the product lineup. Whereas really, this car is just very enjoyable. And here within rFactor 2, I think it has a purpose. You know, it is, in my opinion, the friendliest of the bunch. It's probably, I would say it's kind of this weird thing, and I've mentioned this before. It's more difficult to drive, but it's also easier. You know, it's more difficult to drive because it isn't as track focused, and you can tell, but at the same time, it's more friendly. You know, it doesn't try and kill you, it doesn't snap as hard, basically, as something like the Z06 or the ZR1. You know, you really do get an appreciation of the differences between the two. So with that said, let's go ahead and do one more lap and then we'll switch over to the Z06. Clipped a little bit of grass, we'll just turn that into a little slide. I've noticed a distinct lack of sidewaysness in this video, so we'll just go ahead and do some work on taking care of that. But, you know, as you'd expect, this car does have a lot of torque, even the Grand Sport and the base model. If you want to get sideways, sideways is there. Which really makes this a very good car, especially the Grand Sport here, as I mentioned, for, you know, learning car control and and building that confidence. So yeah, this car can slide. I'd really like to see what somebody who actually can drift and drift well could do with this car here within rFactor 2, but let's go ahead and switch cars. Alright, we have switched over to the Z06, and here's a fun little challenge for you. Pick a gear, leave it in gear, don't shift. See how fast you can go. It's actually a pretty fun little driving exercise, I guess you could call it. We're using 4th gear here, and we're going to use it throughout the lap, and we're going to probably still go just as fast as the Grand Sport did. And this is just the basic Z06. There's the Z07 package, which adds in much stickier tires. Yeah, they're basically almost grip packs. They're really sticky. Upgraded brakes and other things in amongst that. But, I mean, it feels like we're going slow, but we're already doing 80 miles an hour. It's like, even though we're in 4th gear, for no reason at all other than the challenge, the car still goes really quick. It's sneaky fast, but that is the beauty of torque. It's just a fun little challenge. I think really will help you focus on making sure you get your line right through the corners and keeping your momentum up through the corners and into the corners and things like that. So yeah, just something for you guys to try out. Well, let's start to get on it a little bit more. But the C6 Z06, in my opinion, well, my favorite Corvette since the 60s. Really like to own one of these one day because, well, and this is kind of transferring into a little bit of a different subject, it's the last of its kind. You know, I honestly believe that. I legitimately believe that. I don't think we're going to see another car like this because, well, you just can't build another car like this for many reasons. I should say build another car like this in any sort of numbers. You know, you see even the C7 Z06 supercharged. Why? To meet performance and emissions requirements. You can't just stick a 7-liter in the nose and be done with it, can you? That's just not fun. I don't have a problem with superchargers, but there's something about natural aspiration. Okay, natural aspiration for the win. But kind of along those same lines, some people might be saying, why did rFactor 2 get a C6 Corvette? That's old. You know, the C7 is all the rage. You know, everybody's going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for the Corvette C7. You know, Assetto Corsa is going to have the C7. Why is rFactor 2 doing a C6? Get your act together, people. Well, you know what? I would rather have the C6 because not only the fact that I do find the C6 Z06 much cooler, again, my personal opinion, everybody's going to vary, but there's also the fact that, like I've been mentioning throughout this video, you do have a wider variety of performance. You know, you have the base model, which is tuned for street use. You have the Grand Sport, which is kind of in between, the Z06, which is plenty fast enough on itself, but then, oh hey, yeah, let's just go ahead and throw more crazy at it with the ZR1. You know, whereas with the C7 Corvette, you know, the Stingray, the base, is basically, you know, probably closest to a Grand Sport, and then the Z06 is basically the ZR1. So you don't really get to appreciate all the smaller nuances between cars, which really makes things stand out. So honestly, like, you know, yes, everybody's going to want to have the latest, greatest, newest car, but I think this car has a little bit more value to it. You know, I think, you know, the Corvettes are going to be a little bit more more appreciated as time goes on, kind of like the NSX, for example. You know, it's not necessarily a fast car by today's standards. You know, a Honda Accord can hang with the NSX, for crying out loud. You know, is your mind blown? But yet people still want it because, you know, it's one of those cars that is great. It's a great car. It's a great automobile. And that's why people are going to want it. And I think maybe could just be making things up, very likely. Could just be filling time at this point. What do I know? I think the C6 Corvette will kind of have a little bit more staying power than, for example, the latest, greatest, this is the fad, this is the here and the now. So I think there actually is a good reason to it, even if it is just as simple as, well, the guy had already made a C6, and that's that, you know, just upgrade it and convert it on over. But I think there are still very good reasons. But really, the differences between this car and the Grand Sport, this car, much more at home on the track, much more willing to attack the corners. Not to mention, coming out of the corners, much more willing to do that, depending on what part of the power band you are in. And it really is quite difficult for me to decide between this car and the Grand Sport, because of the fact that the Grand Sport is enjoyable to drive for kind of coaxing the car to do what it doesn't want to do, but the Z06, it's just exciting to lap. It's just, like, it's addictive. It really is. You know, you're constantly working with the car in both cases. But in the Grand Sport's case, it kind of feels like the car wants to slide away a little bit more, whereas here you're trying to manage the car a little bit better and squeeze that lap time out. Too late, too late, too late. Now that doesn't mean you can't drive this car sideways, though, because that certainly ain't the case. And that was a poor line through there, but you get the point, okay? This is not professional drifter closed course or anything like that. Not even professional driver closed course. But still, you get the point. You can still have fun with the car, okay? That's the point of going sideways. I do have to say, though, if there's one thing about this content pack I'd like to see improved, it's definitely the sounds. Partly because these engines sound so good, partly because I'm sick and tired of hearing high displacement V8s that make me think of biplanes. Which, you know what? I'll finish out the lap, let you guys listen to the sounds. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hey, bye.
Yeah.